Hey, good morning. These days, police officers have a lot of high-tech tools at their disposals to help prevent, stop, and solve crimes. One of those tools is the license plate reader, also known as an LPR. Now, among other things, they can help locate criminals and track loved ones who are lost. But there are also those who believe the cons outweigh the pros and that these cameras impact our privacy. Joining me to talk about the use this morning is Stamford Police Chief Tim Shaw and retired Newtown Police Chief James Viadero, who now serves as the executive liaison for the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us here. Thanks.
Of course. So, Chief Shaw, let's start with how they're being used right now and how they're helping officers.
Well, I think the technology, it gives us an idea of if a criminal is in our town. And for the victims and for those people who have been subject to those crimes, it kind of gives us a heads up they're here so they don't commit another crime. We are able to utilize the technology and the officers are able to see where people are, and we can track them a lot better. And at times, it's more of a safety issue for the officers as well as for the people in the community, because if we have an idea where they're going, we can get ahead of it and we can try to stop them in their tracks more strategically than the old days of doing pursuits and hoping people stop.
And have you seen a big difference since they've been used?
Oh, huge, huge. We have them in Stamford, and we also have a fusion center, so we have a lot more technology than we did before. And being able to know where people are who are, violent criminal felons, and be able to stop them before they can commit more crimes. Yeah, we have a lot of examples of, we've had manslaughter charges based on our license plate reader program, major assaults. We were able to track someone with a fentanyl overdose, the person who sold it. They showed up there and we were able to get the license plate reader information and ended up arresting that person for manslaughter.
Wow.
Based on that technology.
And who are you able to share this information with?
We have a lot of there's guardrails that are placed within our policy. So we have a certain retention period. And with the company that we utilize, we are only allowed to, we're the ones that give permission to others. So we control who else gets to see it, such as another municipality who has the similar program.
Are you able to use it for little traffic fines? And
No,
if some,
no,
okay.
That's not what it's for. It's really for criminal investigations, and I think it's been a benefit for the community. And again, there's a lot of victims of crime where some of these crimes don't get solved. And with the technology, I think we can close a lot more cases.
And Chief Viadero, of course, there are a lot of concerns with the use of these LPRs, the ACLU. They're trying to limit the scope, the use. They're saying that they could violate civil rights. What do you say to that, to the critics here?
We're working, with the legislative bodies to formulate a plan. We understand the concerns. It's new technology. It's just like artificial intelligence. With new technology comes new concerns. Right now, the process that we're going through is a bill that's introduced, and there's a number of things I think that we're in agreement upon as far as setting up guardrails as how to control the use of these devices, drones, LPRs. Our post consul, our police officer standing and training council, being proactive, working on the issue, knowing that what's coming that's going to be confronting law enforcement, is going to put together a model policy that I think is going to address the concerns that the ACL is bringing up about privacy concerns and the general public. As law enforcement, using technology is something that's been talked about to be more efficient, to be more effective, and we understand with the use of that technology comes concerns as far as how it's being used. And I think we're all in agreement that there should be some type of controls on it, and we're going to work collaboratively towards that.
Now, it sounds like you do support some guardrails and limiting the scope of it. What do you think about putting them on pause while those guardrails are being worked out?
I don't think putting on pause would be a good idea. There's so many things that are still happening that law enforcement depends upon those tools to do their job more effectively and safer. To put it on pause, to wait for the policy to come out, I think we can work together towards those goals more effectively if we're using it continually. And if there's an issue that comes up, if there's a concern, bring that concern to us so we can address it. I think as law enforcement, we want to make sure there's no abuses to that system.
Are you able to share it with federal authorities? I know that some are concerned about ICE using this technology.
We understand the Trust Act. We are working well within the confines of the Trust Act and making sure that our policies or the department policies don't violate that right now. The sharing, you have to be able to, like Chief Shaw said, you have to grant the permission to share. Different vendors have different guardrails in their system, and we're working to make that more consistent.
Have you been able to use them I mean, you talked about this in law enforcement, but quickly to be able to solve a crime quicker.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I could give you an example
Sure,
of,
I'd love to
we
hear.
had one a couple months ago, and it was a kidnapping that happened upstate, and it was an individual who kidnapped his 2 children, and the information was relayed that his mom might have lived in Stanford. So we had people set up in the area of the highways, and the person did not show up at the time we thought he would, and then moments later we found out that Darien had a license plate reader hit. So we knew he was in our area. We ended up getting closer to the highways, and he hit another LPR. Ended up on the highway. We were able to stop him. After a lengthy hostage negotiation, we were able to end up stopping the car and saving the 2 kids out of the car and apprehending the suspect for, which would be considered a violent kidnapping based on the actions he had before the kidnapping. So that's an example of a live feed, having the technology of the drones, having the technology of the LPRs, and as I said earlier, being able to get ahead of it, right? And that makes the community safer. That makes a lot of people safer when it comes to that.
That's incredible.
You know, if I can add, you know, you look at all the chiefs in Connecticut and nationwide right now, you know, they're looking at their crime statistics. Violent crime is down. And you have to attribute some of this to the technology that's in use, drones, LPRs. You know, it's allowing officers to do their job more safely, more effectively. You know, one of the concerns of Connecticut was pursuits, right? And through the use of LPR technology, you know, you don't have to engage somebody in pursuit. You could still follow that vehicle, surveilling them using LPRs or the first responders as drones. So, you know, I think it's a way of doing law enforcement effectively and safer.
I know also Connecticut, like many other states, has a problem with stolen cars. How has this helped that?
I think it's been
situation?
very useful.
Yeah.
If you look at the major cities in Connecticut, you know, they're looking at their stolen cars of several years ago. The numbers, you know, were very, very high. And those numbers are steadily coming down. And, you know, having worked in an area that used LPRs, my prior job was Bridgeport PD, you know, very successful tool in controlling stolen car thefts and tracking cars that are coming into your municipality or your town to do another theft.
It sounds like you are helping work with some of the guardrails and limiting the scope of the use. Do you know how soon some of that legislation could come out, and
you know,
what the next steps are here?
Yeah, the next steps of legislation will come out. There's going to be some proposals. As far as the Post Council, I've been in contact with the chairman of the Post Council. They have a model policy that they have compiled that they're putting together that's going to be reviewed by a committee this week. And I think the policy itself is probably going to address a lot of concerns that have been brought up. We have the same concerns in certain issues.
That's very interesting. I really appreciate both of you coming out today.
Thank you.
Are you working together on this legislation?
Yeah, we've worked together for years, and I think, you know, collaboratively through the whole state, you know, we're working with the chiefs and the legislature and the concerned individuals with the ACLU.
I think the only thing that we'd like to add is that it takes a long time for chiefs and police departments to develop the trust with the community. So we understand there are some people who have some questions on this, but we're not going to jeopardize everything that we've built over this time to stay with the community and be hand in hand with them. We understand the concerns. Jimmy and his team are working on those concerns, and I think when that product comes out, I think that's going to kind of alleviate a lot of the pressure that people are putting on this Big Brother idea, because I think a lot of good police work's being done. It's proactive. It's what you want your police department to do to make your community safe. The numbers show it. But again, we're not going to lose all the trust that we built based on some technology.
Well, thank you very much for your insight
Thank you.
this morning. We
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.